The Utah Supreme Court has stopped the execution of Ralph Menzies, ordering a mental health reevaluation before he can be put to death.
Menzies has been on death row for nearly 40 years, and his case is shining a spotlight on the cost of capital punishment for Utah taxpayers.
Ariel Harrison joining us live tonight from the Department of Corrections in Draper.
Well, Mark, Brian and Heidi, today I learned from the DOC that execution costs are not tallied until after the fact. And with Friday's firing squad now on hold, the state hasn't taken on any major expenses. But Utah former Governor Gary Herbert says the bigger issue now, though, is how much Utah's entire capital punishment system costs, and not just for taxpayers.
Ralph Menzies was set to die by firing squad in just over 2 days. That execution is called off for now, as the state's highest court orders a re-examination of his mental competency.
Last year, the total cost was somewhere around $290,000.
Glenn Mills with the Department of Corrections says the delay means the state hasn't spent extra money, saying most of the prep work happened during regular working hours. This document, though, shows the breakdown of the Tabarone lethal injection execution costs from last August, the bulk of that tied up in the medical services and supplies. A vast difference from firing squad.
$200,000 of that was wrapped up in the cost of the drug for the execution. So we can confidently say that this time around, it will be significantly less expensive than what we saw last year.
Former Governor Gary Herbert says while executions can cost hundreds of thousands, the real expense to the more than 1.4 million taxpayers in Utah comes from the decades of appeals.
The last time I checked, it was like $17,000 a year to house an inmate. But capital punishment, because of all the appeals and the court time and the delays, it becomes a very expensive proposition.
Menzies was convicted in 1988 for the murder of Maurine Hunsaker. 39 years later, Herbert calls that wait for justice unfair.
That's a long time. I don't know that it's fair for anybody, for the criminal or for those impacted by his criminal actions.
The former governor oversaw the state's last firing squad execution in 2010. He argues Utah's capital punishment system is broken and stresses the mental and emotional cost is just as heavy.
The anxiety, the waiting, is it going to happen, not going to happen? I think it's just a bad policy.
Who, in your opinion, would need to quarterback that effort or that question, that issue?
Well, it needs to come from the legislature, and it shouldn't last 30 or 40 years to have justice rendered. Until we get that right, it makes it hard to stand tall about capital punishment.
Now, Governor Herbert went on to suggest that 5 years should be plenty of time for a thorough examination of a capital case. And if the timeline isn't addressed by the legislature, he argues that Utah shouldn't have a capital punishment at all. Reporting live from the Department of Corrections, Ariel Harrison, KUTV 2 News.
Ariel, thank you. Last year, the Utah Department of Corrections executed Tabarone Honey. This is a breakdown of the cost specifically of execution, not the court costs. In total, the state spent $288,685.29. More than $260,000 spent on medical services and supplies, more than $10,000 on personnel and overtime, and more than $16,000 of event expenses. Honey was executed to death from the 1988 murder of his ex-girlfriend's mother, Claudia Ben.